with Richard. Yeah, I do think that UBI is an accelerationist policy, and that's the only condition under which I'm enthusiastic about it.
Again, the total expenditures of the current welfare state have overshot the potential expenditures of UBI. And they did, according to Charles Murray, this is actually a more efficient implementation of the welfare. We create inflation in certain ways. I agree. But again, welfare creates inflation. And, zero interest rate policy creates massive inflation in real estate, luxury goods, equities, etc. Like, things create inflation. This is happening right now. And we just have to take that as a given and then ask, where are we going to go from here?
That being said, there's more than inflation. There's the fact that you think of the wealth of a nation. It's now getting spread at the unit level, the unit being the human individual. And that has severe evolutionary consequences. I mean, then the only goal in life is to find a way to survive for the 18 first years of your baby so that he can get to the UBI, and it changes how people approach reproduction and what kind of families are favored. And I would like to read Charles Murray on this, because Charles Murray once wrote, we're giving social welfare to the wrong woman. Well, under UBI, you're giving social welfare to all women. And that's another aspect of UBI, which we haven't talked about tonight, which is this...
But isn't that better than directing it at the wrong people? Doesn't it kind of wash it?
A cynical argument. It's like the state being so incompetent to target the right woman. It's better that we have the state target all women equally. But that being said, this UBI also causes issues in that it gives more freedom to women to be breaking families. And this may have impacts that we don't calculate yet on divorce rates. I'm worried about this.
I think that's a good point.
NPC162 says, honestly, I see our only power as scaring voters away. Yang will be blasted in the first debate for white nationalist supporters. Well, we've commented on this already. Richard agrees, but he says, and I agree with him, he has an out that Trump doesn't have, that any white man doesn't have, which is that he's a minority too, and it's hard to sell the idea that this Asian entrepreneur would be a Nazi of any kind. And last thing, there's lots of people... Maybe not.
Asian nerd Nazis actually make up, 30% of the alt-right as it is. I mean, so...
Maybe they do. I don't know that. I don't see much Asians' names on my donor list here on the super chats. Maybe that's true. Finally, people are asking about where you're headed. I believe that you started to publish some YouTube videos on Radix NPI, right?
Yeah. I mean, heel turn kind of didn't work out for me in general, but it kind of got blown up as well when Chris Cantwell was threatening the doxing of people. But to be honest, it wasn't quite what I wanted when I started. I basically just simply want to develop some that are mine and that are connected with people around me. I'm not really that interested in recreating the TRS podcast network or something. And I thought we were kind of going, different directions, which is fine. That happens, but it did get blown up by this Cantwell situation. But maybe it just wasn't your way. So I have been sick and I've been kind of doing some stuff. But yeah, MPI Radix will be my home. It still has residual 12,000 subscribers, but it will be my home until it gets banned. Which again, the deplatforming seems to be heating up. I mean, I didn't think we'd get banned from Amazon.
Amazon is going hard. I see that you have subscribed to Subscribe Star, but they haven't yet enabled it.
I won't comment on this, actually. I will comment that I have worked this out, but I have actually two what's the right metaphor? I have two horses in this race, and once I figure it out, I'm not going to talk about it publicly until I've figured it out, and then I'll say, all right, here we go. But yeah, this situation has to be solved. I thought the situation would have been solved in 2017 or 2018, and we're in 2019, and it hasn't really been solved, and that is terrible.
All right, wonderful. So we'll be following you. There's the link to the channel in the description below. And finally, Nicholas sends a super chat. He says, I attacked you, Spencer, on this show in February for slandering Kurt Doolittle and proprietarianism. I want a discussion with you on this eventually. This whole proprietarianism thing, Kurt Doolittle has to write his freaking book. I mean, right now it's a bunch of Facebook posts, your philosophy. So if you want a true critique, first state it on paper. What the fuck is it?
Yeah, I agree. I remember listening to Kurt Doolittle. I first heard about him in 2016, and I think Henrik at Red Ice interviewed him like twice, and I kept giving him an hour of my time to make sense at some point, and I just think it's gobbledygook. I'm sorry, guys. I am honest.
Man, he's a brilliant man.
Okay.
If he can find the intelligence to write down what's in his mind about the intersection between the factual reality and the moral reality, it could be extremely good. I love him, but unfortunately I think he's a little deluded when it comes to the extent of what his thought leads to. And I want to see it on paper before I finally give my opinion. Richard, it was a pleasure talking to you, and you are always welcome on this show.
Thank you, JF. It's been too long.
Yeah, it's true. We didn't spend much time together, but I wanted to see you develop your stuff, and I knew that you had your NPI Radix, and sometimes I want to see people develop their own stuff, and I think it's you had
I've got to have my own
Rouge
home.
B.
I've got to have my own home for this live streaming stuff, and but I'm not. I've never been deeply competitive in the sense that I don't like the infighting, some of which heel turn took part in, and I don't understand it, and I don't think it makes sense, actually. You know, we want to create a tide that's going to raise all boats. That's what happened in 2016, and it was an amazing phenomenon. So I don't think just like battling over one set of eyeballs, it doesn't really make sense. I want to develop an audience and develop supporters who really like me, prioritize me. But in terms of going on other people's shows or whatever, or linking to their show, whatever, I'll do it. Anyone who treats me with respect, I'll go on their show and link to their show.
Absolutely.
I don't get the pettiness.
It's a beautiful aspect of the streaming culture where we are competitors in the facts, but I feel that in the way we interact with each other, we don't treat each other like competitors. And people who treat others openly have been gaining in this sphere. Back in the days, from the Warski Live days where you were there, I was there, we did the debate with Sargon, people are rewarded for just being open and willing to interact. And sometimes I spend a whole night on someone else's channel and they make the money, and I'm like, okay, I don't care. It helps get people's attention, and it also confronts your brain with a various set of ideas.
Right.
All right, Richard, bye-bye. Everyone in the audience,
bye-bye.
Have a good night. My precious.
Yeah, I always come back for a precious $100 super chat.
Frank Carr says, don't learn economics from Spencer. That there are other sources of inflation is no reason to ignore additional ones. Because the amount of inflation matters. UBI will not displace the existing system because that will cost votes. We will be paying for both. You know what? I agree with you. Here's the thing. It's a kind of deceptive approach to inflationary drives because it's not a single inflationary drive. It's not that. I mean, Andrew Yang could very well put it on paper and say there's not going to be a single dollar more in the economy. We're just doing redistribution. And that would be true, that then the UBI starting would not cause from the perspective of the amount of money in the economy. But the UBI phenomenon is a long-term, large-scale derivative system that makes your 0 point increase at 1,000. And that has huge effects on the economy. Call it inflation or not. Create a situation in which your economy keeps being headed toward other things than it should be. Call it inflation or not, you have just made it a rewarding. You have just created being a human being. And that sucks. Now, Richard Spencer would come back to you and say, yeah, but we're already doing it and we're doing it poorly. And I would have to agree with him. Maybe this UBI costs less than how we currently treat social welfare. And so, in fact, UBI being distributed to everyone has this equality quality to it. Quality of equality. That is very interesting in that it will not favor others. But I'm extremely worried. Dirty D disagrees, says, all I know about Kurt Doolittle is that he uses enemy propaganda slurs like conspiracy theorist to denounce his detractors. I don't trust him. Nico Angel says, what does JF think of the Zeitgeist movement scam? Well, you guys are bombarding me when I had announced that the show was over, but there's this money coming. I cannot say no to all this money. Zeitgeist, I'm not aware. Zeitgeist is an amateurishly produced, made for the internet conspiracy mongering film. I don't know what it is. So I'm sorry, but I cannot provide you with an answer. And Nicholas Dallam says, but we have no way to be rewarded for labor with robots. Well, it's true. And what that means in the capitalist system is, okay, we don't need that much human workers anymore. I think that's the message you need to understand from robotization. Now, this whole idea that you have a freedom dividend is kind of morally justified if you consider, okay, we all have reached the point of automation. It's all of us that have allowed this to happen. Therefore, all of us should be getting the reward. I guess morally you can defend it that way, but it's kind of bizarre. Oh, and since people are paying me to keep going, Eclipse and F says, keep it going, Papa. And he sends $10. Well, $10 is enough to cover some news stories. If Brexit clarity doesn't come soon, the fallout will be savage. You know that the word savage is not cool anymore when it's used in titling practices at CNN. So, I'm confused about this whole Brexit thing because British lawmakers vote against Theresa May's Brexit deal. That's the most recent news. They made a graphic, actually. This helps understand what's going on. So now, if it loses... So she lost the vote. So we're in that branch here. So, Parliament votes on no deal. If the no deal is voted for tomorrow, we would be headed toward a no deal exit of the EU. If they say no to no deal, then they will try to delay Brexit, and we could end up on March 29th either with a negotiated summit, which is very unlikely, because at this point all negotiation opportunities have been used. So we might be headed either to a direct no-deal exit on March 29th or an indirect one through all of these branches. I'm a big proponent of the no-deal Brexit. I like this whole, this whole destroying of nations happening quickly without game, without any sort of foreplay. I like the idea of doing it roughly. Oh yeah, and there's also people sending me these things about arrest, made a nationwide college admission scam, alleged exam cheating, and athletic recruitment scheme. So essentially, it's like, yeah, these guys who throw rubber balls across a field, they don't have the IQ to be competing with quantum physicists and people who were truly selected to go at university for IQ related stuff. They are not very bright. And so they needed these athletic coaches, actresses, CEOs, administrators who were faking the exams so that good players would get into university, because that's the only way you'll get these idiots pass the university test. I've been in universities and I've been seeing the idiots, and I didn't understand. I was like talking about prime numbers all day, and they would be like, JF, stop talking about prime numbers. The game is going to happen. We need to go to the game. We need to set up tents to wait in a queue so we can get our tickets to the basketball game. And I was like, why did I end up with a bunch of basketball players? I've done everything in my life to be part of the elite. I've done an undergrad in biology. I've done a PhD in neuroscience. I've reached top elite university, and I then obtained awards at the national level, being classified second in my entire country for the quality of my scientific project. And I have to answer these idiots talking to me about basketball games. Well, now we know. And they've been arrested. The basketball players were a bunch of fucking idiots. They were faking their results through university athletic coaches and college exam administrators. They were giving them fake grades. That's why they could hang out with me. I knew that there was something wrong. I was doing monkey brain surgery, and the guys would be there in front of me, and they would be shaking. I would be like, "You don't break this vein, or I kill you." And they'd be like, JF, I think I miss you." Yeah, you missed you fucking idiot. So hopefully, thanks to this criminal investigation, the idiots will be kicked out of university, and we can get back to a point where universities are about intelligence. There's even a YouTube woman who got into this whole investigation. Basically, all that you need to know about me, boys' college, because she had previously indicated she was a spoiled and privileged brat, and she had indicated on her YouTube channel that she didn't care about all this study stuff, and in fact she's now been caught into one of the members of the system, fake grades system. Now she says, I wish I could go to school just for the experience and not care about my education. To earn a living and waste your parents' money cannot really thing. When you look like this, you actually don't need education. This girl can just fuck a millionaire, and she's gonna do fine. This girl doesn't need a quantum physics diploma of any kind. But unfortunately, we live in a society where she was forced into these diplomas. She had to have fake grades, and because of her, the experience at university is less pleasant for guys like me, because I'm actually an intellectual. Back in the days when they invented universities, it was for people like me. And we get these bimbos, and they're like, JF, I want to learn brain surgery, I'll suck your dick if you teach me. It's like, totally changes the nature of the game in universities, and I had to leave at some point because they were annoying me. I didn't like it. Now TMZ gets this story out. Rosenbar, I'm done with the US, I'm moving to Israel. What the fuck is going on? TMZ? Should I trust them, or are they still lying to me like they did with the whole Jussie Smollett case? Rosenbar is throwing the towel and leaving the US. Barr appeared on Rabbi. Is this a joke, or it's actually a podcast? I think it's actually a podcast. And said she's headed for Israel. First she says for a few months to study, but then she talks about a full-on move. I have an opportunity to go to Israel for a few months and study with my favorite teachers over there, and that's where I'm going to go, and probably move somewhere there and study with my favorite teachers. Barr says she made a fatal mistake, apologizing for a racist comment. People will remember the TPS episode with Roseanne Barr. What episode of TPS was that? 1, 2, 3? It was one of our first episodes. And I said, don't apologize, Roseanne. I even made a sketch about it. Back in the days, we were making sketch on the TPS, and I had made a sketch in which I was explaining, if you want to be... What so you want to be an alt-right superstar? Something like this. And I was explaining to Roseanne, you cannot apologize. If you apologize, you... So now she recognizes that the public space was correct. About former Obama aide Valerie Jarrett. She says when the aide gets sold with an apology from someone on the other side of the spectrum, they don't let it go. They destroy their adversary. Barr, who is a deeply religious Jew, goes on to say, I have some mental health issues and depression and stuff. I got to stay in the middle or I'll go dark, and I don't want to go dark again. See, so much to learn for the young crowd here listening to us. There were more than 2,000 watching this episode tonight. I'm very proud of our numbers tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. But learn, young people, new members of the public space, young teenagers in becoming adult. Learn from Roseanne Barr that excuses don't work. Apologizing will not save you. Your apology will be held against you until you do See Tucker Carlson? He's got 3 releases from Media Matters in the last few days. Tucker Carlson family photo. Do you think this guy gives a shit about apologizing? He has a wife, he produces babies, he raises these babies. This guy doesn't need to apologize. And look at Roseanne Barr, all old, depressed, abandoned. Because why was Roseanne Barr feeling allowed to be making racist jokes on Twitter? really because she felt that she was so not racist that she could do it. But she got fucked by the left. And you never buy their appeasement. They will always eat at you. Tucker Carlson knows this. That's why he won't apologize. Look at him being happy with a family. Rosenberg alone in Israel, abandoned by the very left that she thought she was representing. K. Max McDonald sends $10. He says, Jeff, what is your ideal economy? One without interest? As a libertarian, do you favor the gold standard? It's a good question. It's a very good question. It's a tough